I wanted to do a video about stolen greatness, loss, and all these things. How this actually works versus how people think greatness works. The lie in America is that you work hard for it. The truth is you're a working class person that comes up with a great idea that could potentially turn you into a millionaire, and this church steals it from you and gives it to somebody that doesn't deserve it. But in their brains, that person does deserve it because they tortured them when they were kids. They killed 6 kids and 7 women. They rape babies and do all the bad things. And that's what entitles them to your greatness. Because you may have come across your greatness in a just, proper, and good way. And then they just steal it and give it to a complete piece of shit, and then that complete piece of shit runs off with your greatness because they earned it. Because that's what the church said. That's what because the church said so. Now you might go, Bobby, this happened to you. Yes, they did this to you, but that doesn't mean they do it to everybody. And I'm here to tell you that's a lie. When I was in high school, the other church leader that was there, the one that was supposed to eat Nicole's brain, there was this fat lady that came about, and she's the original body positive activist. She's the one that started body positive, and it was started with that rockabilly look. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but there's this rockabilly thing in the 2004, and she was obese and doing rockabilly stuff. And so, Stu, and the blue-eyed guy, for whatever reason, when I was in high school, because I guess I was a really popular guy and everybody liked me, and I did it without raping kids or being a complete piece of shit. I was just me, and people liked me because I was me. I know, you don't have to be a complete piece of shit. It's a shocker. Unless you're a member of this church, in which case I'm lying. That's the only logic behind that. But, whatever. So they approached me about this and then started explaining to me this fat chick that's advocating for fat acceptance and her movement is completely destroying the fabrics of America and everything's going to go out of control, and where does it end? And the truth is, whenever anybody asks that, it ends somewhere. Okay, it doesn't go on forever. You don't accept fat people, and then all of a sudden you're accepting, I don't know, demons. Unless you're this church, in which case demons are totally acceptable. Trust me, there's no standards with these people. But they start going on about how she's ruining the fabric. I have a conversation with the blue-eyed guy who gets back to the guy that looks like Stu from Ingalls. A lot of the church leaders look the same because they all come from the same genetic pool. They're all inbred. So this guy I referred to as Fat Stu. Fat Stu's taking this serious. He's like, we have to stop this body positive woman, because if we don't stop her, then Victoria's Secret shares will start falling, and then fat women will think it's okay to come outside, and then they'll think it's okay to be in the sun, and then they'll think it's okay to be accepted, and then the shares in the stock market will stop falling, and people will stop trying to be skinny, and women will stop being insecure, and women need to be insecure so insecure men can play on their insecurities and get laid. And they're explaining this to me, and I'm like, you guys sound like dumbasses. I was just, leave her alone. And they were like, no, we have to stop her. So the method of this church is, if you're a person that's about to become great, they send some loser out to seduce you, and they're really desperate, and they first hack your fucking internet, they find out what you're into, and then they create a pseudo person to try and seduce you, and then that normally fails, and then they poison you with heavy metals, because the average person trusts the world and trusts that Burger King isn't going to poison their shit, but then this church starts poisoning you with heavy metals. This obese woman still exists. She's an SSBBW. She's under contract with the church, and they took her kid from her at one point. Her kid is autistic, and I believe her kid is autistic because this church poisoned her with heavy metals. She may not even know she's poisoned with heavy metals, but this is what they did to stop the body positive movement. Now, they got into it, and then they explained that they have to be in control of it because they simply don't know how far the body positive movement might go. It might get crazy debaucherous and empower women, and empowered women leads to communism. You know you're talking to one of these church people when they start talking about communism, because communism isn't a thing. It's not a thing. Okay, they're fascist. Okay, and they want all the money to stay in the hands of just the rich people. That's it. The rich people were born with it. They're entitled to it. They get to keep everything. And even if they fuck up and go broke and they start human trafficking, nobody gets to hold them to account for those actions because they're the victims and everything. That is how things work. And that is why the church gets to human traffic and do all the bad things, because human trafficking is all them oppressing women. Because women can control men through sex. It's an actual thing that happens through history. We just ignore it because men don't want to admit they're baboons when they're baboons. But so Fat Stu and the blue-eyed guy get into talking with me, and I was like, do you guys even have a church leader that likes fat chicks? So they put me in contact with the president's son. And this is the first time I talked to this guy before I accidentally put him in prison later. And he goes on about how he likes fat women and he has sex with fat women and explains to me I'm jealous of him, and I've never met this guy. So once again, how can I be jealous of you if I don't even know who the fuck you are? For all I know, you're fucking ugly fat chicks. Because everybody has their own preference to what they think a beautiful fat chick is. Unless you're these people, you don't know who you are, so everybody's your preference because you're trying to stick it to your dad who didn't love you. But, these losers put me in contact, and I talked to this guy, and he was like, no, we have to stop the body positive movement. And I was like, if there's more body positive people there, I would argue there'd be more fat chicks. At least more fat chicks willing to show off their fatty fatness. Kind of like today, where you have the giant BBL ass women in the super pear shapes that are just thrilled about having giant fat asses and giant boobs and whatever. And then Stu's like, no, we have to be in control of it. If there's money in it, the church needs to control it. We can't let that fat bitch take control of the church. So inevitably they pull some bullshit off. They keep harassing this woman until she says something about the church. They force her into a contract. And then she ends up on a mobility scooter. And now she's like 400 pounds. So Stu's like, we gotta think of a punishment for this woman, and he's like, I want to kill her. He basically explains that the plan is to kill her and then replace her with basically Whitney Waythor on TLC. That is a thing, by the way. I think that woman, Whitney, is probably a member of the church, to some extent. And she leads a fake body positive movement. It's not an actual real one. So they basically poison this woman with heavy metals, destroy this lady, and you can look this lady up. She is the original, like, starter of the body positive movement. And she's an SSBBW now. And that's kind of my fault, because Stu's like, well, I want to punish her, I want to teach her a lesson. And I'm like, well, you could just put her into BBW porn where she can make money for the church and not kill her and let her be fat, and then be like, that's where the body positive movement leads, is into hyper obesity. And then Stu's like, well, that's not good enough because there are people out there that like her, and I don't want people to like her because all the men in the church is super insecure and they can't handle it when ugly fat women are being liked. It makes them crazy. And I'm like, what? And I was like, then put her in charge of gender acceptance, which I never thought would be a thing. Like, people changing their genders. I was never against it because I knew people who said they were trans, and I was just like, I guess they're trans. Like I said, I try to control my life, not other people. It's the job of the church to try and control other people's lives and then fail miserably at it and give people mental disorders, and they go out and kill people, and then they say in court, you can't use religion as an excuse. So when a religion is toxic and causes people to act out violently and murder people, it's not the religion's fault, it's the individual, it's that guy's fault. The religion was just torturing them until they did that. But because they did that, the torture doesn't matter. Okay, that's not the important part. No, it actually is. It's called mental health, by the way. But whatever. So I'm like, well, put her in charge of the trans thing, and then she contacts me and tells me she's always felt trans, and you need to remember they can hypnotize people into believing whatever they want. There is a possibility this woman never actually felt trans in her life, and then they hypnotized her into believing she was trans. And then, they fuck up her mind, and obviously she has an autistic kid, like I said. She has an autistic kid, I believe, because this church poisoned her with heavy metals, and then obviously the whole Whitney thing. They transferred the body positive movement to her because it's control. And this is the thing about that movement, is it started grassroots, it started pure, it started with reason, and then it was turned into a capitalist structure where you're buying shirts and saying no BS and making money off of it. Yeah. It was bastardized. The entire thing was bastardized by the church. And I still remember the call from Anal Eating Mummy God's son where he was explaining to me he doesn't want more fat chicks in the world. And I was like, that just sounds like you're shooting yourself in the foot. You like fat chicks, I like fat chicks. We need to work together on this. And he was like, we're not working together on this because I hate you because you're an N-word. And I was like, okay. I was like, never met me before, but I'm an N-word. So I was, dude, I didn't give two shits. I was just whatever, fucking. But yeah, you need to think about how minuscule the body positive and dude, the body positive shit was an inevitability. Americans have been getting fatter since forever. It's the end stage of capitalism. Even in the 7 deadly sins, gluttony and greed are always related. They're either sisters or brothers, or brother and sister. They're always related because they are very similar in nature. It is two people trying to fill a void. One person is trying to fill that void with food, the other person is trying to fill that void with money. When that void should actually be filled with your own beliefs, interests, and what you want out of life, not what you pseudo want out of life because you're told these things are what's important. I mean, some people naturally want to be fat asses. Good for them. I'm not against it because it's a part of my fetish. Now, this is a macrocosm of what I'm talking about, these people stealing people's greatness. And if you're out there and you happen to be watching this video by some stroke of luck, keep in mind, if you step into your greatness, and the Black Lives Matter thing, that came up because of an argument I had with Stu, because the Stu was like, they're under attack, white values are under attack, and there was no enemy. And I told him, like, dude, you have no enemy. I was like, you have to actually let there be an enemy. And I told him, I was like, the CIA killed all the Black Lives Matter people a long time ago. Those people are dead. And that's when they let them organize, and then for whatever reason, years later, they killed them all. I was actually part of that coordination. But my whole point about this ridiculousness is they had to manufacture a group so they could pretend to be the victims, because the victim thing only works when you're actually the victim of something. When you're screaming you're the victim, and some people are really stupid, they'll go, they're the victim of something, but we can't see it. Okay. You're the victim of your own dumbass religion. That's what you're the victim of, your own stupid fucking religion. And even Stu, or Fat Stu, explained to me there's a problem with them playing the victims and everything, and saying there's an invisible enemy out there, because some of the members have figured out there's nobody out there trying to kill them. This church is the most violent, stupid thing on the planet that goes around murdering people they don't like, and then they tell everybody thinks like this, because in their brains, this is what a great person looks like, a complete piece of shit, and nobody can earn it on their own, not because they can't. That lady that started the body positive movement was doing great right up until this church interfered, poisoned her with heavy metals, stole her greatness from her, and gave it to TLC so that they could monetize it. This stuff sounds crazy, but it's not a joke. There's a literal church that does this. And you might go, I know somebody that's potential at being great. They're probably going to marry a spouse that's going to fuck them up as much as they can. Because these people don't believe in natural-born greatness. They believe that there's a specific bloodline that's blonde-haired and blue-eyed and deserves the greatness. Okay? And anybody else that tries to get that greatness is a piece of shit. That is how that works. And they're not going to let you have it. They're going to tell you, they're going to gatekeep and say you have to earn it through some arbitrary bullshit we made up. And you have to follow our arbitrary bullshit. And nobody's allowed to be anything because we said so. Also, we'll kill you because we're willing to do that. We're willing to murder. And that's how their true greatness is, their a capacity for murder. That's it. They don't actually have anything special outside of that. Yeah. This is an extremely important video, even though it doesn't really sound like it, because you might go, well, that's just body positive greatness, and it's kind of stupid a church attacked it in fear that body positive would lead women into some kind of power that would disadvantage insecure men from the church because they're insecure because they're raped in the ass by their fathers. But No, it's more than that, because this lady was running a grassroots small thing that came under fire by a bunch of maniacs. Okay? And they are a bunch of maniacs. Okay? They're fucking crazy. And anybody else that tries to become great, and you need to think about it, how many people do you know that have become great from a grassroots movement, or actually stepped into their greatness by doing something great? The answer should be none. I may have been the last person to actually do something great from a working class perspective. Okay. And I remember Blondie telling me he's going to pretend to be poor and all this other shit when he replaces me, and he's going to be, oh, I'm going to get the glory. I'm going to get it all by faking it. Which, okay, great. I no longer care, because once again, there's a billion of assholes versus one Bob. And at the end of the day, I'm one Bob. And honestly, I have learned hopelessness, because these people are just going to knife me in the back. And if I do step into greatness, they're not going to let me have it my way. They're going to go, we need to be in control of it. Oh, you're going to ruin everything. The rich people need to stay rich instead of being forced into poverty, where they can learn real values, morals, and lessons, and that life isn't just about fucking everybody up and trying to control shit they can't control because they were raped in the ass and they're extremely mentally ill. Bobby, you're going to ruin it. Kill yourself. One of the things I just remembered from Papa John's that came up when I was talking to Blondie was like, we did this thing where we stole this guy's greatness from him, and a lot of people died, and that's his fault because he failed. He failed, and it's his fault because he failed. It's his. Now, shut up. I was like, what did you do? I was like, did you steal it from him fairly, or did you play dirty? Oh, we played by the rule. They're made up rules. Once again, they make up the rules, and their rules are made up, just like all words are made up. Okay. So, anyways, we have a back and forth on this, and then I was like, you just give it back to them. And then he was like, no, you have to, that person has to earn it. They have to earn it. They have to earn it. They do. You don't just give it back to them. And I was like, so you're the kind of piece of shit that steals something from somebody, and it's just like, integrity, I stole it, it's mine, and he, stop it. I was, what? Stop what? He's, no. Because, once again, they want it both ways. They want to behave like complete pieces of shit, tell you it's fair, and then when a moral person comes up, does do something moral, does do something right, does do something just, they have to fuck them up to prove that the only way to do things is to be a piece of shit. And the problem with that moral person is they're not willing to go dirty to become great. They're not willing to play ball. They're not willing to get violent. They're not willing to kill to get what they want. So they don't deserve it. It's that simple. That's how that works. Because law of the nature, and it's not nature. Nothing these people do is natural. There's nothing natural about raping your kids. There's nothing natural about drinking lead. Okay? They are not natural people. They're disgusting human beings that have learned that if you cheat at everything, you can win. Which, okay, 2-year-olds learn that. Yeah. That's my point about this entire thing. You don't just give it back to him. That would be crazy. That would be doing the right thing. I don't do those. That's stupid.